fans who started booing and hissing me tonight, don't try that again. I am a star, and next time I come here, I want you all to get down on your knees and kiss my feet.
From pillar to post and coast to coast, this is Live Audio Wrestling.
Live Audio Wrestling.
I'm the law around here, brother.
Your number one source for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts news, interviews, and opinion.
You're welcome.
With Dan the Mouth Labransky.
Really hard to believe that so much man could be wrapped in such a good-looking package.
Jason Agnew.
I'm the most hated man in pro wrestling, and that's just the way I want it.
And John Pollock.
Here's Johnny.
This is The Law on TSN Radio.
Because our time is now.
From chick magnet to controversy maker, tonight we're talking punk, and more punk. Welcome to The Law, Live Audio Wrestling, coming at you live across Canada on the TSN Radio Network, Sirius XM Canada Talks Channel 167, and streaming all over the world at liveaudiowrestling.com. My name is Jason Agnew, joined by Dan the Mouth Labransky and John Punk Pollock. Let's just choreograph everything tonight for 2 hours of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts chatter. Mouth, there's an interview this week. There's a podcast. Colt Cabana said some things.
Colt actually kept pretty quiet while Mr. Punk was allowed to run rampant. It's going to be a very interesting show tonight as we take your calls about that. And we also have an excellent special guest. We have the big Ring of Honor pay-per-view next weekend, Final Battle. And to get yourself ready for that, John had a chance to talk to one half of the Red Dragons who are fighting Alex Shelley and Kushida. Mr. Kyle O'Reilly will talk about Final Battle and all his recent work for New Japan. All the regular features are here as well. Trending topics, Wrestling Observer X with Dave Meltzer, Breaking the Law on the Law message board, and your chance to win a cool wrestling t-shirt thanks to our good friends at barbershopwindow.com during tonight's edition of Title Bout Trivia. And as Jay said, we want to hear from you. What did you think of CM Punk's massive interview with Colt Cabana? What about the return of the anonymous GM on Raw? And did Sting really debut this weekend? Because they sure didn't follow up much on Raw. Anyways, inquiring minds want to know.
So give us a call. It was 5 minutes before the show started.
That's right.
And the phones already started ringing, but there are lines open. You might
Lots of guesses about the anonymous GM.
Yes, that's what people
for sure.
want to know.
Lines are loaded.
Of course.
Right. 1-855-591-6876 is the number to call if you want to talk about Hornswoggle maybe popping up tomorrow.
Oh, no, don't say that.
At Law Radio is, of course, where you would send your tweets or leave your questions. We are going to be doing an extended Q&A segment at lawradio.proboards.com. Okay, guys. Gee, I wonder what the trending topic's going to be this week, Braden.
I have received an email trending worldwide on Twitter right now. The voices of each and every one of you. I have your attention. Shut up! Just read it!
From headlocks to contract talk.
I simply want you to sign a contract for the right reason.
Title bouts and tap-outs.
It is all over!
The Law presents
OMG, WTF, LOL.
Trending Topics.
He said, I'm out of here.
Right.
And Vince, with tears in his eyes, stood up, and I stuck my hand out, and he went in for a hug. And it was like a reluctant, I just kind of patted him on the back a little bit, and I looked at Hunter, and he stuck his hand out. I shook his hand, and I said, goodbye, and I walked out.
You can run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Run on for a long time. Sooner or later, gotta cut you down.
So that was a clip, a very small clip, 20 seconds there from the Art of Wrestling podcast, which you can go and attempt to download at coltcabana.com. So it's courtesy of that podcast, which hit the internet this week, broke Colt Cabana's website, of course.
Oh, yeah.
With so many people trying to download it. We have heard it. It was the talk of the wrestling world this week. It was CM Punk sitting down with his good friend, Colt Cabana, and doing a very long interview telling the whole story about why he left the WWE. So with that in mind, I'll throw it out there. What were the notable parts for you, Dan Labransky?
Oh, man. the notable parts, I have 3 giant pages of notes here. There was so much. The stuff about, I don't know if you remember back when he left, and one of the things I kept saying on this show all the time was, I cannot figure out why the guy would leave before WrestleMania, why he wouldn't stick around. We knew his contract was up in July. Well, now after listening to this podcast, I can certainly understand why the guy wanted to get out of there. Just so many of these things. I mean, the fact that he would present ideas to Vince and Triple H, and then they would say no, and then 2 weeks later you'd see it happen with somebody else, or all the stuff about the Ryback, the idea that Punk's idea, the Shield was Punk's idea. Like, I mean, there was a million things to take from this. It was one of the most fascinating conversations I've ever heard with a pro wrestler in my entire life.
Yeah, I think the main points that are really going to stick out here that can cause more issue beyond the actual podcast is the staph infection.
Yes,
story.
the health issues, absolutely,
the
absolutely.
health issues, the concussion, and the staph infection story. And
the staph infection, that's just ridiculous what happened there.
I think all of that, to me, kind of superseded everything. You're always going to have creative problems with talent. This was certainly a top talent that was able to shine a light that few others could, that were involved with so many main players in a main event position. But to me, it was the health stuff that I think the WWE would least want to be broadcast out there. The fact that this was a guy that had a concussion and went off to do a European tour, allegedly, got a concussion early in the Royal Rumble this year, continued going where the doctor said, what do you want me to do? I think those are the kind of things that I think the WWE most wants to shy away from. I think the creative differences are whatever.
Yeah, that can be said by a lot of performers on the roster, I'm sure, that do express their opinions and they get stolen and such. Looking at this, it was interesting. I do respect Punk. He's generally, I think, a difficult person. Yeah. Very headstrong person.
Very, very strong and very confident in his abilities. And, he doesn't ever
And I think
back.
You will admit that. You listen to 2 hours. Yeah. Imagine being in business with this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very hard-headed. I'm sure it was a nightmare, both sides. I'm sure that there are equal stories to the contrary of CM Punk. And I think he would acknowledge this, and he did in the podcast. He's not an easy person to deal with.
No, I don't think so either. I do respect him for going on his buddy's podcast and just telling the story there. Because if he was money-driven, he could have made a lot of money.
Absolutely.
By
shoot
doing
DVD or something.
Yeah, exactly. A shoot DVD. So just going to his good buddy's podcast and doing that there, I actually thought that was a really cool thing and a really cool place to tell his story.
And I think also for Punk, too, it was almost like having, therapy. I mean, you get the impression listening to it, because he can talk with Colt and he's comfortable, they've been buddies forever, that it was almost like a therapy thing. And he was it was so good. You could tell it was good for him to get a lot of this out and to be able to talk about a lot of this stuff, because he's been, holding it all in for so long.
So the questions coming out of this, the fallout that will come of it, do either one of you, John or Mouth, perceive this becoming a mainstream media story? I personally don't think it will. Reason being, I think that Punk would have to participate with the media, and I think that he's just here to tell a story.
Yeah.
He'll probably do one more podcast, and then I think he's going to be one of those guys that just doesn't want to talk about wrestling.
Yeah, there's a story there, and I think it concerns that here is the WWE that has a very much a public relationship with the Sports Legacy Institute. Paul Levesque is on their board of directors, and that they have really championed this concussion awareness. It's part of their NXT facilities. The fact that is a huge concern for them, and you have this top performer that kind of looks at a very contradictory practice that is being executed here, and how many other stories might exist there. But it's a very closed company. You're not going to get any other performers.
That's the thing. You're absolutely right.
That can go on the record, that would be willing to go on the record. I don't know if Punk would really be willing to. I think he got his story out there. I don't think he has any motivation to go past this point, other than putting it out there. But there is a story there that someone could follow up on, 100%.
Yeah, I just don't know if the media is interested in it that much. I mean, we have had this stuff with football and the concussions and everything, but I don't know if the mainstream media is willing enough. And like John said, and you said, if Punk doesn't participate, then it's going to be pretty tough.
There's no story if he doesn't push for it, I feel. Other fallout from this, of course, do you guys see an effect with AJ being on the roster? Or do they just let that go because they don't want to make it completely obvious that they're just... I mean, she has dropped the title already.
Yes, that's true. I don't know if that was motivated by this.
Or will she get even further buried because of this as a way of punishing,
Well, they've done things like this before, so...
I think that would be pretty transparent, and that goes right back to our to what we just said about, do you want this story to be bigger? And, the bridge to that is CM Punk's participation. I don't think you would necessarily want... You almost have to imagine that, deciding to do this, it does create that problem. At the same time, does WWE want to continue with it? I think they just want this to be gone.
Yeah.
I think with Vince McMahon tomorrow night, I think you make a statement and you move on, and you don't make that the focus, and you just let this die. And hopefully, for WWE's sake, I think they hope that people will just move on to the next big story.
Well, that'll be tough, though, because, live, you're going to get fans I'm sure we're going to get CM Punk chants on tomorrow night, no matter where they are.
So the two different things there. Number one, John was referring to the fact that tomorrow night, the big push towards buying the network in December is they are following up Monday Night Raw with, a podcast of Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. So there's a certain pressure on Austin to ask the CM Punk question. So we'll see how that will be confronted tomorrow night afterwards. What do you think happens there? Just a statement off the top?
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would have Vince address it off the top, and then you've got another 55 minutes of Vince McMahon who can take the topics wherever you want. People are going to be fascinated by something that he says. You can tackle it off the top, and that would be the best course of action. And I think I think you should say something, and just right off the top, the WWE, just a statement about the interview, and then you move on to whatever's going to be next, and reveal something big that's going to have people talking after the interview that diverts attention, I think.
Now, along with that, we always talk on this show about the, generally two types of fans. You have the smart fans that would, listen to us and Meltzer and Cabana's podcast, for that matter, versus the people who show up to the arena just to see the event, the common fans. So my question would be, are there enough smart fans to make this a problem with the CM Punk chants tomorrow where they are at Raw? Do you foresee it happening, and then, once again, the CM Punk chants
where is it tomorrow? It's somewhere in the Midwest,
Tulsa.
Right? Is it? Yeah, Tulsa. So I don't know if Tulsa will be as savvy as, say, Chicago would be or something like that. But there's going to be some chance. Oh, yeah, there's going to be enough fans that are going to... they've chanted for less things than this.
The good part... they've kind of fallen into a good part here, though, because you don't necessarily have to have Triple H on the show tomorrow. You're probably not going to have him on the show tomorrow, and with that, that's good because he would be the one getting the most chance out of anyone.
Well, I would assume if AJ comes out, she's probably going to get some chance.
Or Ryback, for that matter.
That's true, exactly, yes, yep.
But maybe they'll just keep him at the concession stand. Let's take a break here, come back. We're going to start taking your phone calls. We'll chat a little bit about Raw as well, but I got a feeling a lot of this is going to be CM Punk tonight, so that's what we're chatting, getting your opinion on. I give it the phone numbers, but the lines are full. So let's take a break and come back. More Law after this.
Look in my eyes, what do you see?
Hi guys, Jason Agnew here. If you've ever listened to The Law and thought, hey, I'd like to put the logo of this wrestling radio show on my chest, well, you need to reevaluate your goals in life. But nonetheless, now you can. Visit ProWrestlingTees.com and get your official live audio wrestling t-shirt. We've even got a shirt with the face of Dan the Mouth Lavransky on it. Now that's going to get you the ladies. Order now at ProWrestlingTees.com/law.
You're listening to Live Audio Wrestling.
There's only one best in the world
on TSN Radio.
Best in the world! No more authority to run the show. Wait a minute. What? Oh, no, this can't be.
Can I have your attention, please?
Oh, no.
I've just received an email from the anonymous Raw General Manager. And I quote, "Forgive me for interrupting this joyous celebration. This party is officially over. Next Monday, Cyber Monday, Order and Discipline returns to Monday Night Raw.
just let it keep going.
I was going to say, you just had to leave that in,
Just left it there.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Law. That was the way that Raw ended on Monday night. Just as annoying when you hear it on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty terrible. Monday is, of course, Cyber Monday, which is a marketing term for the Monday after Thanksgiving holiday in the United States. So we're getting the GM returning, the anonymous GM, which is weird because it's already been, sewed up and it's supposed to be Hornswoggle.
It was.
He was under the ring.
Yeah.
But nonetheless,
what did we just watch last Sunday? What did Dolph Ziggler do for the company? I thought it was to wrestle power away from the authority and that it could return WWE to the rightful power. And now we're back to an anonymous general manager.
Yeah.
What did they win last week?
Yeah, and they didn't even really declare that John Cena and Ziggler or whomever should have had power to appoint a new GM.
Right.
That could have been Daniel Bryan because Daniel Bryan just showed up out of the blue.
Yep. Yeah, they never really said why he was there or who put him in the spot. Like, you didn't get Vince putting him in the spot or anything. I know.
And then there were also, of course, unanswered questions with Sting, which, initially I didn't like. But
I didn't.
Along with that, you're going to let that go.
I understand you got to let it build a little bit. I thought they would have done a little bit more than they did. I thought just showing the video off the top, I think they should have at least talked about it a little bit more.
They mentioned it here and there and brought him up.
I don't know how much you could do. I mean, the program is not for the next pay-per-view.
No, I know. I understand
not for the pay-per-view after that. I think, if anything, by the end of it made you say, man, I didn't get Sting on Raw. I should have caught the pay-per-view the night before. That was my chance to see Sting, and I don't think that was necessarily the wrong move to make. And it'll make you now, if Sting comes back at the Rumble, I think it'll make you want to see it that much more.
I did not understand why Vince was angry at Triple H and Steph. He's the one that put the stip.
Yeah,
they failed.
Yeah,
They failed, I guess. But why did he bother putting the challenge out there?
To see what kind of people they were, what kind of
trying
stature.
to test their mettle, Jay.
Yeah, well, all right.
I love the stuff too, where the way that the stand for the GM just shows up right beside them all, and nobody notices it until the thing goes off. Like,
didn't put the camera on it, I guess.
Yeah.
People, that's one of those things where I'm, much like when I talk about Bray Wyatt running around when it's live, like they had to wheel that thing down and just have it standing there, and the cameras don't don't focus on it. The crowd is definitely aware of it being rolled down there during the break.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Commercial break. It probably came down. They set it up, but. Yeah, it's not something I'm looking forward to. It was terrible the last time they did it, and like you said, the payoff was Hornswoggle.
Yeah,
so I mean,
why bring it back?
Yeah, the thing was it was so hated by everybody. Like, I don't remember anybody really enjoying that gimmick at all.
So, and then the following week after that is the Slammy Awards. Is what they're doing the week after that, and that will be the go home show to TLC. Will be the Slammies, which is.
Who's going to win the Pipe Bomb Award this year? One of the slams. Is that going to be retired?
I guess.
I think it will be. I think that one's going to get retired. Yeah.
Don't foresee them using that term.
No.
Let's go to the phones, though. They are full, so let's take some calls, John.
Let's go to line 2. Ross is in Edmonton.
Hi there, Ross. Welcome to the program. Are you wanting to talk CM Punk or something else?
CM Punk all the way. Hey, I thought it was just. I agree with most everything that he did say. I just think the timing of the interview is, it's just indicative of the current product that WWE is producing. It's absolutely terrible, and you can't tell me that the network numbers haven't suffered because a guy like CM Punk isn't on the show. And, it's just flat out ridiculous, all the things that he had to go through. And my biggest thing is I feel like he'd be there if it wasn't for WWE and their stupid, politicking and everything else. CM Punk, he doesn't deserve this. Go Punk.
Okay.
There was that tone in the interview that when he was after walking out, he really did give you the impression that he had the belief that he would probably be back at some point. He was willing to talk with them when Hunter texted him, and it was really not until the firing happened on his wedding day.
On his wedding day. That was a very...
You could tell that was a stickler with him, that he was not happy about that, because he brought it up several times in the interview.
Well, obviously, that was just something that was done very maliciously.
Yes, yeah.
It was just, on a man's wedding day, you decide to send the papers to fire him right before he gets married. Very malicious. Let's go to the next phone call, John.
Line 3, Chuck is in Detroit.
Hello, Chuck from Detroit.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
We're chatting CM Punk and other things.
Very, very eventful... last few days. I tell you, one of the things that I think really needs to be addressed, and he addressed it in his own podcast, is the whole status of the independent contractor. I mean, this thing is a farce. I mean, these guys are actual employees of the company. They're not independent contractors in the truest sense of the word. They know it, and how they have gotten away with this for so long defies me.
Yeah, that's been a big issue for a long time, and this brings it to light once again, and it's definitely.
And that's another aspect I don't think they really want to shine a big light on with this. I mean, they really don't want to light a match here next to a potential, gigantic mess for this company that this could invite. And the independent contractor thing, it comes up every couple of years.
Yeah.
We had that tease of that class action lawsuit a number of years back. And you look at it on paper and you just think that this powder keg has to explode at some point, because there's nothing about these performers that are independent contractors. I mean, by definition, John Cena could be on Impact next week by the definition of an independent contractor.
Yeah, for sure. But not as an employee, and they're not employees. It's ridiculous. They don't get benefits, It's just, and yet people who work in the office for WWE do.
That's right.
So that is ridiculous. It always has been ridiculous. Let's do one more quick one before we're going to go, John.
Let's go to line 2. Kim is calling from Toronto.
Hi, Kim. Just got a couple seconds here.
No problem. I just want to say that, Daniel Bryan has been off for 9 months because he refused to go back. Like, he refused to get the surgery. And what about taking personal responsibility? I mean,
Daniel Bryan didn't refuse to get the surgery. He's just in the midst of a whole bunch of, medical problems and evaluations and such.
Right, but, I think Punk, too, he won't acknowledge that he actually quit, despite the fact Paul Heyman goes on an interview and suggests otherwise.
He won't acknowledge that he actually quit?
He didn't say that he quit. If you listen to the interview, he said that he walked away and that they suspended him.
Yeah,
and he's like, at this point, I haven't even quit. He's like, and then I got fired.
Oh, seems like 6 of one,
in an
half
interview
dozen of another.
admits that he quit. I think he's basically manipulating a lot of his fans as though they were sheep.
All right, hold on the line. I'm going to hold you over and come back with you there so we can get more into that. Take a break. Come back on the other side. More of your phone calls. 1-855-591-6876. It's The Law, Live Audio Wrestling.
I'm the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. What you see is what you get, and what you don't is better yet.
You're listening to Live Audio Wrestling.
I'm the women's pick, I'm the men's regret, and if you win against Chael Sonnen, you made a bad bet now.
On TSN Radio.
Well, John, this is what surprised me about all this. Remember, Brie Bella had to be the personal assistant for Sister Nikki for 30 days after losing at Hell in a Cell, but it seemed like the past couple of nights that he actually got along.
I don't think it was a little surprising, but I think you look at it and realize family first.
Well, Brie Bella's 30 days of being Nikki Bella's personal assistant expired following Raw this past Monday night, and it does seem like the two of them have mended their differences.
I feel sometimes WWE just has a big eraser.
That's it.
Just erased 30 days there.
30 days? Are you kidding? This started at SummerSlam.
That's right. The 30 days was just the
they mended
the
differences.
Thing. Oh, they're fine now. Don't worry about it. Everything goes back to the way that it was before, except that damn song still plays when she comes out.
Well, at least she's a heel now.
I don't...
Braden, stop.
And then Big Show is going to feud with Eric Rowan is the other one.
If we were worried they were going to put him with Cena, so I don't know. I would take this over Cena again.
Just Rowan was already out of the match when Show betrayed them. So this isn't Rowan's fight.
Right, yeah. That's true.
It was such a strange Raw.
It was very weird. And talk about talking.
Oh, yeah.
There was so much talking. Triple H and Steph come out and talk. Daniel Bryan comes out and talks. And then we have a 2-minute match, and then somebody else comes out and talks. And Show comes out and talks. There was a lot of talking on this one.
And that's what we do on this show. Welcome to the Law.
But we're not not for 3 hours.
I thought you were going to say, but we're not a wrestling
show.
I was you were going there, weren't you? Let's go back to Kim.
Trying to figure out what exactly we are.
She was on line 2, right, John?
Correct.
All right. Kim, okay, so you were making valid points there about, so you're siding with, you're not siding with CM Punk here, which the majority of people calling in that have heard this interview are. You're taking the contrary. You're just thinking that Punk is trying to lead his fans.
I do. Listen, I'm a Punk fan, but he's a smart guy, and he knows what he's doing. Like, for example, he says that Vince suspends him, but announces during a conference call that he's on sabbatical.
Yes. Yep.
As though he has no idea why he would do that. If anyone hears that a wrestler suspended, the first thing you think of is what? A wellness infraction.
Yep.
So he's trying to protect his reputation. He's trying to protect his investment. And maybe he's actually being nice to Phil because Punk has a reputation for being straight edge. It's really important to him. So maybe Vince is actually being respectful of that.
I wouldn't give
Vince
Vince that much
stock.
stock.
That, he's just protecting his business investment, which is more than likely.
That would be more likely, I would say, yes.
Right. But there's no acknowledgement of that. Like, everything is about, poor me, and, I could have absolutely not gone on the European tour, and I could have just taken the movie role. I needed a break. I should have taken care of my body like others have before me. But instead, I wanted to play yes man, but now I want to bitch about it later and make everybody else's life miserable. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not a way that you can operate in any business.
I think certainly that there's some culpability on the performer, especially when you're talking about the degree of which this guy should not have been on the road, whether it be concussions, staph infection. I'm completely with you. I think that there are a lot of people in that company that do walk on eggshells. Punk was not one of them. And I think that there is a certain breaking point where the performer does have to somewhat, supersede his employer in this particular case, and I think that is something that people do weigh when they're listening to CM Punk's story here and the argument of how this whole thing fell about. There's a lot of that.
Well, too, I think Punk also talks about how Rock made more money, and so did Triple H and John Cena, and that despite the fact he had the best match on the card against Undertaker that year, he should have been paid comparably.
Yeah, that was a bizarre point, especially when you consider The Rock, because he wanted himself to be equal to The Rock, but the fact of the matter is the amount of attention The Rock draws back is possibly tenfold to what Punk will draw.
Right, but his logic is, I don't care how many buys that he brings, I put on the best match.
Well, his argument was that it was the name WrestleMania that drew, aside from The Rock, and that I wouldn't agree with. I mean, if you contrast the numbers from 2009, 2010, and then you fast forward to the 3 where Rock came in, I mean, the difference was The Rock. But does he have an argument against Hunter on that card, against Lesnar on that card? I mean, I think that can be debated. I mean, we don't know what the payouts were, but he claims he was 6th of those 6. But Rock is.
He wants to be credited for his work performance and not for the money he generated for the company. And as for Triple H, despite what people may think of him, he was making millions. If you go online, you'll see he makes $500,000 a year to be an office person. So he's taking a huge pay cut.
Well, he also
and
doubled.
Obviously, he's getting paid to be on the show, but that's where he makes his money, is being on Mania.
Yeah, but I think the argument, though,
he's not a regular performer wrestler. Like, he's being paid to show for a certain amount of dates. That's his contract. That's just him being a good negotiator. You can't fault the company because you didn't negotiate as well as you wanted to because you're passionate about the business, but then you're angry at the owners.
I don't think he was necessarily contradicting what his downside is, what his merchandise money was. The payoffs, though, those are subjective. I mean, those are subjective to what you brought to the show, and that's where you can argue all over the place, because if you're not if you're not in a Rock position, it's very subjective what business you're bringing to a WrestleMania when you're in the second match, the third biggest match on the card.
Thanks for the call, Kim. And along with that, when you talk about payouts, there's still no answer in regards to what these guys are getting paid out now that there are no pay-per-views and they're just on the network as well, which was a concern that Punk brought up as well because no one was asking questions about that.
Because in talent contracts, they don't have any rights to the digital income that comes in. There's no obligation on the WWE to pay based on the network subscriptions.
Exactly. So you've lost all your pay-per-view bonuses, and then along with that, even though WWE might be making, comparable money to the pay-per-views because, they're not paying out the pay-per-view companies even though they've lowered their price. None of that money is now going to the talent.
Yes.
So ultimately, it's just the boss taking more and the company taking more. Back to the phones we go.
All right, let's continue on. We'll go with line number 3. Brian is calling from Long Island, New York.
Welcome to the show, Brian.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Good, sir.
Well, first of all, of course, the Big Show, Eric Rowan, the cause of that feud makes no sense. But, I'm all for that instead of, show Cena for the 1,000th time. It's nice to see the Big Show suck the life out of a new wrestler.
Well,
So,
it is a fresh feud, I guess. It's just illogical.
A fresh feud that will get stale very quick.
Yeah.
But, so anyway, the CM Punk chaos. It was. The guy has a way with words. There's no question about it. That he has a way of getting people to pay attention to him. But the thing with this whole interview, which is, which was worth every second of my time for a change, I will say this. What was just as interesting was the fallout to it. Because a lot of rumors were going around about it, how they're going to book tomorrow night. You think they could leave AJ off the show. They may even leave Ryback off the show, maybe a backstage segment at best. It actually works in the company's favor that Triple H and Stephanie are off right now, because Stephanie used to respond to the chants every once in a while, especially if it was in a big city. But John Cena every once in a while responds. He won't tomorrow night. But what was interesting is people are starting to draw their own conclusions. Is this all a work to get Punk as a mystery entrant into the Royal Rumble?
No.
It would be cool because I'm going to be there. But on one hand, that would be awesome. On one hand, there's a lot of animosity going on right now. But on the other hand, when you look at all the people that Vince has let back in the company, no matter how severely burned the bridges were, Hogan, Bret Hart, Warrior, Sable, Shane Douglas, Vince Russo, this wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah,
but,
not yet, though. I don't think yet, though. I think that
this might need some Bruno Sammartino style time to before he comes back again, or
That's a question that we've actually had a few people tweet that out. Will CM Punk be the new Bruno?
Yeah, exactly. Will Triple H erase him from the history?
So that is, it's been asked twice actually by two different people that I've
and a big difference between this being a work and him coming back one day. I mean,
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not a work. I mean, just listen to the interview and the way that he's, gone after the company and gone after the people personally within the company as well.
Yeah.
Just can't see that being a work. It just doesn't make sense business-wise. It doesn't make sense when you're reporting to investors for the company and having all of this get out and be questioned about your medical plan, the doctor that you employ as well. I mean, just terrible story. That staffe infection story was just
that one in
ridiculous.
particular, because staph infection is one of the most common things that pro wrestlers get, and the fact that there was a doctor that either wouldn't diagnose it or just kept ignoring it because it didn't suit their needs.
And one of the most contagious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the fallout of that could have been fatal.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is just a malpractice suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just what that story was just absolutely horrendous. And if you haven't heard this interview, by all means, go and download this interview and listen to it. It's worth your while as a wrestling fan to go and listen to the Art of Wrestling podcast with CM Punk on it.
Line 4, Kevin is in Calgary.
Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Good, sir.
Good. I guess I don't know what to think because I understand where CM Punk is coming from, and I think he's sharing his perspective of the story in a safe environment with a guy that he knows is a friend. I don't think there's any intention for him to come back. I think the way that I took the interview is he's completely done with at least in ring wrestling. I don't think he's ever interested in coming back. I would be interested to hear the WWE's perspective on that at some point. I think that there is another side to the story.
Of course there is.
Yeah, exactly.
There's two sides to every story, as we know.
You'll get the WWE side in a somewhat abbreviated form.
I don't know if they really want to be.
Interview.
I don't know if they really want to engage in that back and forth here and get into a lot of deep issues here, which they could run the risk of not coming out looking great in.
Well, they've already responded to some of the medical stuff that was in the interview already. Did they not release a little
of course they have
statement,
I mean, you have to just put something there but after that, I mean, you just want this swept away and swept under the rug so that people stop talking about it. And anything else, Kevin?
Well, I had one more quick thing here on Sting. I wanted to ask if he's only going to do one match. If this is the plan, and I think. Is it worth it for him to do it if he's just going to lose that match?
Yeah, he probably just wants to be on WrestleMania and get that payday and just, at least have that one check mark. It's almost like a bucket list.
Exactly, the one thing to do WrestleMania.
Everything going on with the CM Punk interview, also consider you're dealing with a disgruntled former employee that you're listening to here. And Kim brought up a good point where he is leading his fans. And, we always do say on this program that the best characters are extensions of their own personalities.
Exactly.
And if you remember back to the Straight Edge Society, Punk played one hell of a cult leader.
That's right. And it's funny because in the interview, he talks about the WWE regular fans being sheep.
Yeah,
which
there you go.
I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, now it's not necessarily the regular fans that he's leading with this. It's more so the
hardcores.
That's right, the ones that listen to this show. We're taking a break. We're coming back. The phone calls continue. We do have lines open now. If you have been waiting, phone now, 1-855-591-6876. If you're texting in, if you can also post up on the Law message board, lawradio.proboards.com in the feedback, and we'll get to that at the end of the show as well. The Law continues right here.
You're listening to The Law on TSN Radio.
We live for this!
Wrestling lives here.
Big E legal. Have a tag to Xavier Woods. Uh-oh, Heath. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. What a double team move from the New Day. The New Day has won.
It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life. It's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
So that's the New Day debuting what was supposed to be on Raw, but instead on SmackDown.
Yep.
What'd you think?
Well, first off, making a debut on SmackDown kind of instantly makes it seem like it's second rate right out of the gate. And plus a three-man tag, like a three-man tag team, that's not going to be anywhere near the main events or anything like that.
Okay, two things. Number one, SmackDown, they're trying to bump that up and make it more important. So doing something like that on SmackDown, you're going to see more of that, I think. And a three-man tag team, well, none of these guys are going to be main eventers, but this is just trying to spice up the mid-card, right?
I suppose. I don't know if I like the gimmick associated with a team. It strikes me as more as a one-person kind of thing rather than a group of guys.
The Preacher type thing?
Yeah.
The Preacher James Brown?
Yeah, exactly. Preacher James Brown. I don't see it. And I don't think Big E just does not fit in as far as I can kind of see it with Kofi and the other one, but I can't.
Ezekiel?
Yeah, Big E just seems totally out. Xavier. Big E seems totally out of place to me. He doesn't look right in there at all.
Well, they're a three-man team, and it looks like they're going to be feuding with Goldust and Stardust.
Yep, to start
that
with,
was the vignette there. I don't know. What'd you think, John? They got same color uniforms or outfits.
Yeah, I just for a babyface six-man tandem, it's kind of limiting, and they'll probably work their way just into the tag division, much like you said with Goldust and Stardust. I just don't see it as a kind of a character revival that's going to have too much upward mobility for them, but hard to say after a week.
I do. I think they'll stay pretty much complacent exactly where they are. It's just that now they're teamed. And you're right, with the three guys, there's just going to be a little bit of confusion.
And plus, this type of gimmick, to me, you have to be really strong promo-wise. If you're going to be like a Preacher James Brown, Soul Revival, It's a New Day, you got to be able to talk. And I don't know if any of these guys can carry the talking that you'd need for this gimmick.
Well, listen, they should have left it as Malcolm Xavier Woods that they were doing there, which was not his name, but regardless, you know what I mean? Like that gimmick, but I guess it was just too politically charged for them to go through it, so instead they went with this, which is just a lot more PG, more family-friendly, more happy, brighter colors. Wow, there's some bright colors on these guys.
They need Slick, the Reverend Slick.
Yeah, there you go. Now you're talking. Get Slick in there.
Let's go back to the phones here, John.
Line 5, Chris is calling from Las Vegas.
Hi there, Chris.
Hey, what's going on?
We're chatting about a gentleman with two initials and a name.
A C and M and maybe a Punk?
Yep.
Well, I wanted to talk about him, but I know about this Raw GM, which is causing me to boycott Raw this week. But I had a terrible idea what they may do. We had 30 minutes of talking at the beginning. Yeah. We had 2-minute matches. I know at the beginning here they like to do Raw, Raw Rewinders, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Vince Russo is your anonymous Raw GM.
Oh, jeez. I don't see that happening.
No.
I don't see that happening.
I mean, why did he bother?
Let's go to line number 1. Rob is calling from New Jersey. Maybe Rob will be the GM.
Hey, man, this is even better than
I
that last
became the
caller.
GM, I want a nice paycheck, bro. I don't know what, for this
I know
holiday
Rob
season.
could come out and do 15 minutes flat.
Oh,
No problem.
No.
About to do
I would
15
be
minutes on
entertaining,
this
trust me.
show.
I wouldn't be like Vince Russo out of all people. Anyways, no, dude. After what everybody's been saying about Punk, I can't argue with anybody said really. The only problems that I have, and I really do feel sorry for Punk, and I mean for pretty much on all parties concerned. And there really are like 3 truths of the story: the actual truth and both sides, ideas of what the truth is. I really feel bad for the physicians that are supposedly the best in the world, and they're supposed to like help all these guys that are getting hurt. But then it's like, you're in between a rock and a hard place, and like, there's no way for like, talent to really, if they're saying that they're hurt and all of a sudden they're still being pushed, then that's a red flag right there. But apparently nobody's going to address that. And yeah, I believe what Kim said was actually really true. I mean, like, WWE just wants to, save face in some ways politically, but that's just my opinion. And pretty much, I mean, I don't see Punk ever going back ever, but again, it's like he's already done everything anyone would set out to do. He's already a multiple-time champion, and the only reason for him to ever go back under any circumstances is probably to put somebody over. But again, doing what he said, or saying what he had said rather, I mean, there's no reason for him to. I mean, like, what do you guys think? I don't ever see him coming back.
Well, I don't, because I think it's obviously proven that he wants to do other things. I think he's going to try and do the same thing as The Rock and try to parlay his wrestling success into other fields. He's already working with Marvel Comics. I think he wants to get more into comic book writing and stuff like that. And I'm sure he's going to probably do lots of TV stuff, appearances here and there. I think he's done with it. I mean, unless he really feels he needs to have a WrestleMania main event, which he feels he was always robbed of.
Good point was brought up there in regards to the doctors as well, because they're not governed by the commission in each state. They have these doctors that they're on staff, right?
Yeah.
They are. Exactly. They work for the company.
These are legitimate doctors.
Yeah.
And I mean, they cannot be conflicted with, well, this guy's being pushed. It's like your job is to monitor talent, and talent that is very much these alpha males that need to have that person saying, no, you're going to stop right now. And not this, and these are allegations at this point. But if true, it's really bad.
Really bad. We'll talk about this really bad situation continuing on with Dave Meltzer when we return. Don't forget Kyle O'Reilly in our second hour as well. Talk about trivia and the Q&A. All that when the law continues.
Get up, get on up, get up, get on up.
If you want interviews with wrestling's hottest stars, behind-the-scenes news, and the most complete wrestling package on the World Wide Web, then you want The Law. No-holds-barred wrestling radio, coast to coast, with Dan the Mouth Labransky and Jason Agnew. Daily updates from The Law's own John Pollock. Plus, uncut, unedited interviews with wrestling's hottest stars and greatest legends. LiveAudioWrestling.com. Log on today.
Hi guys, Jason Agnew here. If you're like me and have a daily audio love affair with John Pollock and Wei Ting and want to put their faces on your chest so they're right beside your heart, now you can. Review Away t-shirts are available at ProWrestlingTees.com/law. You can tell everyone that you're a John Pollock guy or a Wei Ting guy, or, hey, where the is the Angry Agnew t-shirt? Brayden, get on that! ProWrestlingTees.com/law.
It's time! It's time!
Behold the King of Kings. It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra. With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live Audio Wrestling.
And let's go, my now smoking with the best.
Hour 2 of The Law. And we have our phone lines connected to San Jose, California, to chat with the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, a quiet week. Did anything stick out for you this week you want to talk about?
No, there were no big shows. Thank God. I needed the rest.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, CM Punk, we spent our whole first hour talking about it, but of course you...
Really?
Yeah, you know, we do these things. We figured that we'd go with it, even though it's a small story.
He's doing a comic book.
Yeah, that's right. So let's talk about Marvel. So he goes on Colt Cabana's podcast, and what we haven't got into on the show yet is the legalities of what he has said throughout this podcast, and the fact that obviously there was some, very disparaging remarks made not only to people on in the WWE like McMahon and Triple H, but in regards to the stuff he said about the doctors as well. It seems like it could be a malpractice suit with the staph infection story. Do you see anything transpiring here, the WWE going back at him, or do they just want this to go away?
That's going to be, I think we're going to know that tomorrow. I don't know what their attitude is. My gut is that they want it to go away, and it's a really weird thing because he's got the hammer, if you know what I mean. He's
Thor?
And I mean, the thing that's really fascinating about this is he settled. I mean, he's not going to have a malpractice suit because that's what was settled. But he had so much leverage that they wanted a joint statement that everything's fine and good, and we're going our separate ways, and a non-disparagement thing, and he refused to sign the non-disparagement thing. So that gives him a lot of leverage, and he went on Colt Cabana's podcast and he told a story, and I'm sure that there's media everywhere that would like to talk to him, and I'm guessing that he's probably going to be quiet. I don't know this, but the strategy I see is he's going to be quiet. But if anything happens, like if they say something about him or if they do something that he doesn't like, he's got that leverage in his pocket where he can go everywhere and make their lives miserable. Because one of the things, I mean, he's got a few things. Number one is he insinuated, or more than insinuated, that Vince McMahon lied in that stockholders call, which isn't a good thing to open up. The other one is that, he basically portrayed Triple H as completely incompetent at his job, and he portrayed Vince as being, completely old and out of touch. And this is a publicly traded company, and they don't want that publicity. And plus, you're going to start having people, you get one of the top guys in the company who's been there for years and years, and he's saying this. Number one, it's going to put a lot of uncertainty over the idea that Triple H is going to be this guy who's going to be taking over the reins, and a lot of stockholders are already uncertain about that because he's a wrestler. And, Vince is 69 years old, and there's always that uncertainty at a certain age that maybe time has passed him by. And, Vince is still considered the guy. Like, if something were to happen to Vince, I mean, when Vince has been ill in certain times, they've kept it very quiet. And I know, like, one of the leading stockholders, one time when we knew Vince was ill, and they pretty much downplayed it, and a lot of people didn't really know. It was like, if this got out that Vince was ill, that the stock price would go down because, there's a lot of people who think that Vince McMahon is the only guy who can do this. And so if he's gone, and, what happens? What's the value of the company? So, I mean, the whole thing was to groom Triple H, but if Triple H can't even keep dates straight for, tours and things like that, if he's this, the way he was portrayed, and there's always another side of the story, and maybe we'll hear it, and maybe we won't tomorrow. Like I said, there's a lot of leverage on this.
I don't suspect we hear anything on TV tomorrow.
Well, we got
the interview.
Night,
so the
though.
podcast.
I mean, even if we don't hear anything on Raw.
Yeah. So what do you think they do?
I don't know what will be said on the podcast, but here's the deal. If Austin doesn't bring it up, then Austin is going to get heat.
Yep.
And everyone's going to say the whole thing was a joke, and they're going to just say that, like, these shows, which they're trying to make one of their drawing cards on that network, that these shows are crap. So you don't want that. At the same time, I'm sure Vince doesn't want to talk much about it, but you can't run away from it. Or if you do, everyone's going to go, they ran away from it. And Vince doesn't like to run away, but in his best interest, he should run away. In his best interest, they probably should cancel that podcast, but they're not going to. As far as I know, I'm sure they're not going to do it and just wait for 2 weeks before so it's blown over, because now either they address it or they ran from it, and I don't know that either of them is beneficial to the company.
Well, and the thing is, too, I mean, Dave, Vince has a reputation of when his back is against the wall and something he doesn't like, he comes out full guns a-blazing.
But is this the right time to do that?
Well, I agree with you. Well, Dave, there was lots of times in the past it wasn't really the right thing to do either, but he went ahead and did it.
And sometimes it worked out, and sometimes it made things worse.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
You're right.
Yeah.
The old Vince would have to be held down and by people and said you cannot because his reaction would be in fact to do that. I don't know what Triple H's reaction would be publicly. I mean, I'm certain that he's furious, but I mean, as far as he's going to let people see that he's furious, probably not.
So, do you think they even let Austin ask him about it, or do they issue like a blanket statement at the beginning saying, "This is what we have to say about that, and that's it. We're not going there for the rest of the interview"?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I don't know, but if they do that, then they pretty much people are going to go like, well, this is just propaganda. This is a big test for them because it's like, you know what I mean? Is your history always going to be bogus? Is everything going to be bogus? Or you can come out and tell the truth, because now you're either going to tell the truth or you're running, and they can run, but everyone will know, well, when the chips are down, this is what they are, and I don't know that this week is what they want that to be. The whole idea of Stone Cold is there to do this thing is because there's no holds barred, and he's going to ask the real question.
Mm-hmm.
But that simply doesn't work on the network, Dave. I mean, there's nothing else on the network that's like that. Austin's podcast is very much, going behind the scenes and not talking about scripted stuff, but it's talking about what goes on, no kayfabe free, and that is definitely not what the network is all about. Even without the Punk situation, this was a very weird sell for the network.
I think they felt that they needed to do it, and of course you got to remember that the free period is up, and that's another key thing. The free period is up, so now it's like all these people that got it for the last month for free. This is a big thing for them in the sense of, do we renew or do we not renew? And I'm not saying that this is the deal breaker for a lot of people, but it's going to be for some. They're going to go, is this worth it? If they come out there and they do something really big, and it's and gets people talking, that will be a positive. If they go in there and run from it, that will be a negative.
Yeah.
But the problem is that what I say would be a positive for subscriptions may be a negative for the company. It's a really weird situation. That's why I'm so curious to see how it's handled.
What do you think in terms of mainstream media, Dave? Because there's been some kind of talk is there someone out there that would pick this up, or is it too weird of a story? Like, I'm just curious if you get any mainstream media picking up on this.
It got your some of your mainstream, but not big time, TMZ stuff. But as far as, this is the deal. If Punk decides that he wants to make this a media story, WWE is big enough and he's big enough that it'll go everywhere. Everyone will talk to him. If he wants to do that and he wants to spend his life talking to the media, I don't know that he can. The point is that I think he has the leverage that they have to be afraid that this is a possibility. I don't know that that's what he wants to do, but that's, like all these places. Look, if he'd gone to CBS or something like that and just gone, look, this is how Vince McMahon treated me and blah, blah, blah. That whole story that he just did on his friend's webcast, on Colt Cabana's webcast, that could have been anywhere.
Yep.
I think he chose Colt Cabana number one. I think it was a favor to Colt Cabana number two. He knew he would get his story out unedited exactly the way he wanted it, whereas if he went somewhere else, it would be edited and maybe it wouldn't come out exactly the way he wanted. But number three, everyone out there knows he can do it. So everything is up to him, and it's up to them. They got to avoid making him mad. That's the key. And that's why a lot of people are going like, "Oh, what are they going to do to AJ?" And my feeling is, if they're smart, is they're doing nothing to her, because anything that ticks him off, you could. I think generally speaking, with most guys, you could go after them and screw with them, and maybe they'll take it because you're a wrestler and stuff like that. But you go and screw with your wife, your wife and her career, when you've got this, I think that if they do anything to her, that will be extremely foolish.
So what you're saying is AJ will win the belt back tomorrow night on Raw.
What about the crowds, Dave? Like, is this
really interesting? interesting.
Is this permeating enough that a big crowd, like say in Tulsa tomorrow night, just starts chanting CM Punk? Every time.
It obviously could happen, especially if Triple H comes out.
Yeah, or even
I wonder,
AJ.
Do they keep Triple H completely off TV this week? Because I think this week.
Or what about Ryback, Dave? What if Ryback goes out there? I mean, he talked a lot about Ryback in this.
I don't think they're going to take it out so much on Ryback. But it's possible. And if AJ comes out, I think that they will. But Tulsa is still, it's a different kind of a city. I mean, I think that they're very lucky they're not in Chicago, Milwaukee, New York,
Toronto.
Toronto.
Any of those
because
cities.
in those places, I think it would be
huge.
They would lose control of their show.
Well, they would get you'd get to the point where if it was in Chicago or Toronto, you'd get steroid guy chants.
And you may.
I don't think it'll happen tomorrow. I just don't know about that audience. But in a really smart city, you would. How about this, Dave? If you're the Sports Legacy Institute.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Does this obviously, this news is getting out there? They're going to hear about it. Do you question your relationship with the WWE and what's going on?
That's a tough one on their part because WWE donated a lot of money and Triple H is on their board.
Yep.
And yes, absolutely, Triple H's department. If it was Triple H, and not the doctor, but this is. Again, this story that he's talking about the concussion, that was January 26th. That's not that long ago. And the concussion before Europe, what's that, November of last year? So it's a year ago. That's not that long ago either. So, yeah, it's, you go in bed with WWE. It's like the Be a Star people. There's stuff, the Be a Star people, there was a lot of stuff that they didn't like. But on the flip side, you get a lot of publicity and the guys go to shows and all that. And they kind of had to hold their nose with WWE at times. And I know people that were in there wanted them out at certain points with the Vicky Guerrero stuff. But in the end, they didn't because of that. And that's the same thing. It's like, is the money worth it? Will this blow over? Is this an embarrassment if the media picks up on it? And I know some people have. And that's another one. Yeah.
All right. Well, just before we go, Dave, let's switch out of this. TNA announced that they're going to be doing tapings. Josh Matthews will be replacing Mike Tenay, but Taz is still kicking around.
Yippee.
Interesting choice, or just strictly political, or will we see other changes, do you think, with the look and feel?
I think everything's going to be, they're going to try to change everything, just a question of what those changes are going to be. This would have happened anyway. I mean, when Josh Matthews was cut, literally the day he was cut, nobody told me this, but I'm just like looking at the lay of the land, and I was thinking that okay, they're going to bring him in as an announcer because John Gabork knows him, and John, again, that's all he knows is WWE, and also Josh Matthews in a sense was his protege because he was involved with Tough Enough, and Josh Matthews came from Tough Enough, and he's Kevin Dunn's best friend, and Kevin Dunn was the one who made the call to make Josh Matthews an announcer as opposed to a wrestler. So I thought that this was an inevitable move, even without the network change, but the network change made for the timing of it.
Yeah, very easy there.
And Mike Tenay is still with the company, though, right?
He has been offered a contract. I don't know if he is signed yet, but I expect that he will. And he's going to remain as an on-air person with the company. He won't be the lead announcer, but he'll be, I don't think he'll be backstage interviewer, but he'll be an on-air guy, and on big matches they may bring him in, to make the match feel big type of thing. They want to keep him. Number one, I think that Mike Tenay, when it comes to creative and booking, is really, really smart. He's been completely underutilized by them, except for during the D'Amore period where he was part of the creative team. So there's that value, and the other value is that everyone knows that if he's cut, he's Jarrett's announcer, and they really don't want him going to Jarrett.
Right.
And finally, we do have to say goodbye, but Hendricks and Lahr, who's your pick next week?
Man, that's a real tough one. I guess, it's what kind of state is that arm in? I think that the match is a little earlier, but not a lot earlier than I would have expected. So I kind of give that one a little edge to Lawler. Mm-hmm. But my God, Hendricks beat him with a torn bicep the first time with the injury just happening, and he still beat him. So the arm's going to be in better shape. Also, Lawler's got freaking firepower. Hendricks had firepower, but he didn't have it in that fight because of the arm. So it's just a question. He says he can hit just as hard. I don't know if I believe that until I see it. I don't know if you've got both the gun-shy aspect and you might have a little less power this early in. If it was 3 or 4 more months, I would say different. God, man, that last fight was an awesome fight. Lawler.
Lawler. All right. Well, we're gonna hold you to it, and we'll talk to you next week at this same time, Dave. Look forward to reading more about Punk and the Observer.
Okay, thanks. Have a great week.
You too. WrestlingObserver.com is where you can subscribe, and they actually have a Black Friday deal.
Yes, they
right
do.
now.
$3.99.
Yep. So there you have it.
I think he'll have 24 pages on just podcast recaps.
Yeah, really.
It's going to be crazy. We're taking a break. Coming back, tight about trivia. Want to play? Give me a call. 1-855-591-6876. Call now for a barbershopwindow.com T-shirt. They also have a Black Friday sale on. Still on, I believe. All right, come back with that right here on The Law.
Melrose Place, Cheers, Dallas, MASH, Dallas, The Surf. What do all these shows have in common, Way?
They're on TV?
They all pale in comparison to Raw, which is a weekly 3-hour show, meaning, Way, we have even more to talk about every Monday night on Review of Raw at liveaudiowrestling.com.
That's great.
Tune in, folks, every Monday night, also on iTunes.
Live Audio Wrestling
15 years of blood, sweat, and tears
on TSN Radio.
Did you give me the instrumental version?
Terrible.
Doesn't he say "Feed Me More" somewhere?
So boring.
Just the heel version?
The big guy.
People are
Meat on the Table.
Yes.
What?
That's the song. Meat
That
on the
was
Table.
called Meat on the Table?
Yeah, there you just said it. Meat on the table.
So people are so wrapped up in CM Punk, they're not interested in CM Punk trivia, which is what I had ready.
Why don't we play?
You want to play?
Sure, me and Mouth.
Okay, sure.
You went to the trouble.
Well, yes, one of you can win a T-shirt.
Hey, can one of us win a subscription to New Japan World? Which
Yeah,
just launched.
Yeah, what are you talking about there? Because people want to know about
New
this.
Japan
This is great.
Just announced their own online streaming
Yeah.
service, so it's up now at.
And they have everything. John and I have just been looking at, like, going back to when they started in the 70s. You can watch the entire history of New Japan here. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm just navigating the site right now, but it's 9.99 yen per month.
Which
It
we
is
worked out to
actually-
$8.49.
Right.
But this apparently is going to have all their monthly pay-per-views,
Wow.
a lot of their Road to the Tokyo Dome shows. So, I mean, it seems
The
like
deal.
Fantastic value if you were looking for... now that Ustream wasn't carrying them anymore, it was very difficult on the Nico site, so this should hopefully cure that problem.
Great. All right, good stuff. And it is actually 9.99 yen.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I calculated $8.49.
49 cents. Yeah, $8.49. Yeah, it's a deal, especially if you read about the 90s in particular was a great period for New Japan, and there'd be tons of
It looks like
stuff.
they've got everything on
There'd
here.
be tons of good stuff up there to watch.
Like the weekly TVs and stuff as well? Or
I don't
just
know
like
if they have
pay-per-view
the
events?
current television. I mean, this is done with TV Asahi.
But most of their TV anyways, Jay, would just be the highlights of the big matches from the shows anyway. So if all the big shows are there, you're going to get it all.
All right. Do you guys still want to do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure,
All right,
why
here we
not?
go.
Got a few minutes
Okay,
here.
well, all right. Okay, Mouth, you're closer, so you get to go first.
Oh, great.
You can ask if he's here?
What was the name? Mouth, you there?
Yeah.
Great. John, are you there?
Hello?
Hello?
Turn your radio down.
You always get the low voice.
Hey, Mouth, what was the name of the podcast CM Punk told his story on?
The Art of Wrestling.
That is correct. Very good. John, what is the primary website you can find the podcast to download it?
That would be ColtCabana.com.
That'd be good. Mouth, at December to Dismember 2006, Punk was the first man eliminated from the ECW Elimination Chamber. Who eliminated him?
Oh, jeez. RVD.
Yes.
Was a total guess.
Yes.
Was a total.
That's a great guess, Dan
It was
Dobransky.
total guess because it was the ECW pay-per-view.
All right,
That's-
John, over to you now. Who did Punk defeat to win the ECW championship on September 4th, 2007?
Johnny Nitro.
Johnny
Mundo.
Yeah,
that's
Johnny
right, Johnny Mundo.
Both of the above. Very good.
We're getting real contestants now.
Well, screw them. On June 23rd, 2008, who did Punk cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase to win his first World Heavyweight Championship, Mouth?
Who was it?
Wasn't RVD.
Cena? I don't know.
No.
I can't remember.
He cashed it in on the Opportunist, remember? He cashed it on Edge.
Okay.
Hey, John, he won his second World Heavyweight Championship the same year on September 15th when he defeated whom?
Jeff Hardy, I think.
It was Chris Jericho, John.
No.
Mouth Punk would also cash in a Money in the Bank in 2009 at Extreme Rules and win the title. Who did he cash it in on? Come on, Mouth.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, clearly you were not paying attention.
Oh,
to
was
the
that
last
Chris?
call.
Oh,
It was
really?
Jeff Hardy.
Oh, Jeff Hardy.
That one was
okay.
Jeff Hardy. That's where you needed that. John, back over to you. Punk would go on to lose that title to The Undertaker on October 4th, 2009. In what type of match?
October would be Hell in a Cell.
That would be Hell in a Cell, John. That's right. Asperger's kicks in there and does you well. Mouth, you got to get this one to stay alive. What was the name of the female character in Punk's Straight Edge Society? The reason I put this in is because I read it today and I was like, oh, I totally forgot her name.
Yeah.
Bald.
I want to say Maria, but I know that's not right.
And urine and vomit.
Oh. Serena.
Serena, right.
Right. John, just for a more dominating win at Over the Limit 2010, Punk had to shave his head after losing a match to whom?
Big Show?
Rey Mysterio.
No,
The interview is over. Thank you, Mr.
Big Show pulled
Big
the
Show
mask
unmasked
off,
him.
right? With the 3-2 win, congratulations,
There you go.
John. We'll get you a T-shirt.
Awesome.
Okay, let's take a break. Let's come back, and we're going to do John's interview with Kyle O'Reilly, and then we'll do the Q&A as well, lawradio.proboards.com. If you didn't get in for trivia, you can post your questions there. You can answer the phones now, John. There are people calling. I'll do it in the break. Okay, come back after this.
If you like to heckle, taunt, and boo, then you're going to love Two Strikes. Hello, wrestling fans. Jason Agnew here, and the first and third Thursday of every month, I'm the host of the meanest comedy show in Toronto, Two Strikes, where you, the audience, get to eliminate comics one by one till only one remains as the Two Strikes champion. Join me at Comedy Bar, 945 Bloor Street West in Toronto at Ossington Subway. For more information, visit comedybar.ca. Two Strikes. Don't you dare miss it.
Friday nights, TSN Radio has your cage side tickets.
Hey everybody, it's John Pollock here, host of the MMA Report, heard every Friday night right here on TSN 1050 Toronto. Tune in every week as we chat everything from UFC to Bellator, bantamweights to heavyweights. It's nothing but fighting because it's all that I talk about, with some of the biggest fighters in the entire industry joining us on a weekly basis.
The MMA Report with John Pollock, Friday nights at 11 on TSN 1050 Toronto.
Hi, welcome to The Source.
Hello, I'm Peppermint, Santa's head elf.
Hi, Peppermint.
Yes, hi. Santa sent me here to find out what the big deal was.
Well, we've got great gifts like portable speakers, tablets, wireless headphones.
Yes, but do you sell handcrafted wooden horses?
No.
And where's your choo-choo train aisle?
We don't have one.
That's what I thought.
Give gifts Santa can't this Christmas, like the Monster Superstar Blackfoot Bluetooth speaker, exclusive to The Source, just $159.99. The Source. I want that.
When you stop by T-Booth Wireless this Black Friday, you won't have to wonder whether or not you're getting the best deal. That means, while everybody else is stressing, you'll be smiling. When they're running around frantically, you'll be strutting about confidently. It's that simple. This Black Friday, T-Booth Wireless will beat any smartphone price by 10% on select Rogers, Bell, Fido, and Virgin plans. Get the Black Friday weekend price guarantee at a T-Booth Wireless in a mall near you. New 2-year activations only from November 28th to December 1st. See details in store.
Now a TSN 1050 Sports Center update.
The Stamps win the Grey Cup. I'm John Leatherby with a TSN 1050 Sports Center update.
As we come down to the final play of the 102nd Grey Cup game, Kolaris spins now from the left side. Now he has to duke one defender. He throws it up, and this is it. It's incomplete. This game is over, and the Stamps
Here's Rod Black on TSN 1050. Calgary Stampeders surviving a surging Hamilton Ticat squad in the fourth quarter and a 20-16 win in Vancouver. Punt returned for a touchdown by Hamilton's Brandon Banks, called back in the final minute because of a penalty. Stamps quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell named the game's most outstanding player.
I think you got to rank him by level of difficulty, man. It's something I've worked my entire life for. And to come to the Grey Cup and have a game like this and have the guys do what we did tonight after so much work, man, it's such an indescribable feeling.
Quite the second-half shootout last night at Staples Center. The Raptors starting life without the injured DeMar DeRozan, starting Grievous Vasquez in his place. Toronto trailed by 9 at the half, but poured in 31 third-quarter points, but they ended up losing 129-122 in overtime. Kobe Bryant, 31 points, 12 assists, 11 rebounds. Kyle Lowry finishing the game with 29 points. Just one game in the NHL as the Canucks lost 5-3 to Detroit. Pavel Datsyuk scored twice for the winners. To the NFL, the Broncos going into Kansas City. They came away with a 29-16 win. Peyton Manning and Alex Smith with 2 touchdowns. Buffalo back at home, and they posted a win 26-10 over Cleveland the final. Johnny Manziel scoring his first NFL touchdown. You're listening to the voice of the Raptors, TSN 1050, Toronto.
Behold the King. This is the Law. The King of Kings. On TSN Radio.
Welcome back to the Law. That's Kyle O'Reilly's theme, huh?
That is it.
And
big match next weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be good.
So next week we're going to be doing that on this show, actually. We're going to watch Final Battle.
Yep.
And then do the recap and rundown of that. But, John, you had a chance to chat with Kyle O'Reilly.
Yeah, he's just had a really impressive year. I mean, he's gotten to go over to New Japan. They've put a real refocus onto the junior heavyweight division, and I think Kyle O'Reilly has been a big addition on that roster. I think it's one of the benefits of New Japan working with Ring of Honor is that Ring of Honor really lends itself to those top junior heavyweights. And then, yeah, we chatted about Final Battle. It'll be Red Dragon against the Time Splitters next weekend. Alex
that's going to be great.
And Kushida.
Yeah. So let's get to it then. John Pollock, Kyle O'Reilly, right here on The Law.
As you kind of near the end of the year, and obviously a lot still to come, it's pretty incredible that this has been a real breakthrough year, I think, for Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Professionally, this has definitely been my most successful year thus far in professional wrestling.
What do you think has just all kind of come together in 2014? It's been incredible to watch your rise, especially for fans in Canada, that here's this guy right out of British Columbia and seeing you progress, entering Ring of Honor. What has it been about this year where it just seems everything is clicking so well for you?
Yeah, like we've, as tag team champions in ROH, we've had an incredible run, me and Bobby Fish. This year we've had, some of our most memorable matches as a tag team so far. I won the PWG title this year, and then I made my New Japan debut this summer as well. So, man, it's like, it just seems like every big match I have, I'm like, all right, Kyle, this is the biggest match of your career. Like, don't mess it up. And then, but I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, well, you're probably just going to have something bigger like a month down the road anyways, so don't get too bent out of shape over it. But it's good. It's good to have goals and to keep moving forward. And, I'm never fully satisfied with what I'm doing in wrestling. I think that's just part of being a professional, is you're always looking to the future and how to improve and to get better and what's next on the horizon.
What has Bobby Fish brought to your career and teaming with someone like that who had the prior experience of going over to Japan and whatever he's been able to impart on you?
Oh, since day one, me and Bobby Fish have just been our own biggest supporters. We both really believed in Red Dragon and what we could bring to this team. I think he's helped me so much in terms of developing a character and coming out of my shell and, helping me with my interviews. And it just started off with us just kind of trying to make each other laugh. And I think that just helped create a level of comfort for me when it came to promos and interviews and things of that nature. It was always something that I struggled with in the past. I'd spent most of my career just worrying about being a good in-ring performer and being the best wrestler I could possibly be. But, that's only about 50% of what being a wrestler really is. There's being a showman and being a good talker. And so a lot of those things I lacked, I feel I've started to improve drastically since Red Dragon's inception. So I owe a lot of that to Bobby for sure.
And I want to bring up the influence that two other Canadians may have had on Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, that being Mike Ricci and the man who I feel is the most interesting human being in mixed martial arts, Rory McDonald. And we saw a bit of a crossover there right after that great countdown special aired right before Rory's fight with Shogun. And we saw some little things implemented by yourself and Bobby.
Yeah, they were. We just liked the way they carried themselves and just their demeanor, and just that they could back it up in the octagon, or in our case, in the professional wrestling ring. Both very different sports in their own right, but we take a lot of inspiration from MMA fighters and just what they can bring to the table in terms of selling a fight or just even their technique. So definitely, there's turning into a long list of guys that we sort of try and emulate to a degree.
As we look ahead, Final Battle is coming up next Sunday night, Terminal 5 in New York City. It's going to be airing on pay-per-view. It was a very good outing for Ring of Honor on their first pay-per-view back in June, and you guys have the Time Splitters coming up. It's a real interesting kind of picture we have now over in New Japan with the junior heavyweight tag division that you guys are on top of, and it just seems to be this great golden period. That New Japan, they put a lot of focus once again on the junior heavyweight division. You're a big part of that. And this whole tag division, whether you throw in the Bucks, whether you're throwing in all four of you guys, which we're going to see at the Tokyo Dome show, all four teams, it seems like you can mix and match any of these combinations, and it's kind of on you guys to what new can we do to present.
Yeah, absolutely. New York's going to be huge. Time Splitters. We had our New Japan debut against them in the Seibu Dome, which was insane. Like debuting on such a huge show in front of 20,000 people, it was nuts. And then we were able to capture the IWGP Junior Tag Championships from them at the most recent pay-per-view from New Japan Power Struggle. So we're bringing this rivalry over to North America, over to another continent, and live on pay-per-view from New York City. It's going to be so special, man. We have great chemistry with them as a team, and all the four main New Japan junior tag teams we have great chemistry with. But yeah, and something special about New York, just the atmosphere of it, it being ROH's second live pay-per-view, the rabid fans of New York City just hungry and bloodthirsty and ready to see a great fight. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be awesome. I encourage everyone to check out the pay-per-view, which is going to be stacked top to bottom, let alone the junior tag match for the ROH tag belts. But it's going to be great, man.
Have you started to really process the idea of that Tokyo Dome show? It's going to be January the 4th. The fact it's going to be airing here in North America is a huge bonus, as people will get to see that over here. But, is that too far away to even envision that here you are, you're going to be getting to wrestle at the Tokyo Dome next month?
Definitely have a couple important weekends ahead of Tokyo Dome. But, yeah, my sights are set on Tokyo Dome January 4th. That's a dream come true, man. That's going to be one of those things where you just take a moment, make it that long walk to the ring, just kind of look around, breathe it in, and be like, wow, like this is really happening. We're here right now. It's going to be surreal, man. I'm really looking forward to it. All four teams involved in the match, the Forever Hooligans, the Time Splitters, the Young Bucks. Each team so unique in their own right and so tremendous, and just with that rabid Tokyo crowd, they're going to be wicked. It's going to be awesome, man. Jim Ross calling the match. It's going to be sweet.
If I have to go back to a real turning point where I think everyone really focused on, Kyle O'Reilly has this incredible potential, it was, after the breakup with Adam Cole and having the infamous, the Phantom Tooth Loss match that we saw. You guys were put in a situation where, in a match that, would have been really difficult to pull off when you're trying to incorporate the MMA rules into a pro wrestling match, and you guys, I thought, stole the show that night.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into that match, it was almost like we were destined to fail. It was it was tough mentally trying to come up with even just ideas and just a way to approach this thing. And the start of the match, the New York fans just weren't giving us anything. It was and then just, it's one of those crazy moments where we were given a gift, and Cole, unfortunately, had to be at the expense of Cole's mouth, but blood was squirting from it. But it made it. You felt the mood change in that instant, and the crowd came unglued, and ended up being a breakout moment for both of us as singles guys. So, it was a very surreal experience. Thinking back, I've had a lot of people tell me that was a special moment and one of our breakout moments. So it's cool that it's still recognized so many years later.
Now that you're in a position where a lot of times you guys will be going on last. I mean, just a few months ago here in Toronto, you and the Young Bucks are headlining the All-Star Extravaganza. You've watched all this great wrestling, whether it's PWG, Ring of Honor, and you've got to follow all of this. Do you kind of thrive in that kind of a position where fans have probably seen everything at this point? You've got to give them something that not only surpasses it, but is going to be the most memorable thing on the show.
It's very tough. Becoming a main eventer, definitely you can feel the pressure going on last on a show, on a PWG show or a Ring of Honor show. You know that everyone's going to have a great match and the fans are going to see a lot of great stuff. But, you're, at the end of the day, you're a professional and you're put in that place for a reason because the fans believe in you, the office believes in you, and you believe in yourself. So you just got to go in with that mentality of just, we're just going to do what I've done to get me to this point. I'm not going to do anything different. I'm just going to try and tell a good story and lay the strikes in and try and have the best match I can possibly have. And that's just what I've been doing since day one, just trying to be the best professional wrestler that I can possibly be. And whether it's the opening match or the main event, my mentality of structuring the match may be different, but the mentality of how I'm going to perform never changes.
That was Kyle O'Reilly chatting with John Pollock. We'll be talking about him next week after ROH's Final Battle pay-per-view. We'll be talking about here on The Law. All right, when we come back, we are doing the Q&A segment, plus a few more of your phone calls. So stick with us. It's The Law, live audio wrestling.
This is The Law.
You might not be an A, but you are a B+. No!
On TSN Radio.
No! Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
All right, Q&A segment. We'll actually start on the board here. First question coming in is, do you think if Brock Lesnar doesn't re-sign with the WWE, then ending the streak was a waste?
I think in hindsight, it really hasn't been capitalized to where we really could, to really justify it. And I think it all comes down to if there's any possibility Taker's doing Mania next year. And if the answer is yes, then you definitely have to question it.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's a... Oh, you mean next year? You mean like Cowboy Stadium year as opposed to this year?
Well, either one. If it's in a couple of months or in Cowboy Stadium, ending the streak and having Taker available for WrestleMania, the fact it was such a snap judgment call, that takes a huge interest out of The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Absolutely. It did, however, reinvigorate Brock Lesnar's character. So there's your upside. So 50-50 split on that. And we'll see. I personally don't think Lesnar is going to re-sign with the WWE. I think he is going to fight somewhere again.
Yeah, Bellator or UFC.
One of the two.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a phone call.
Let's go to line one. Dan is in Dallas.
Hi there, Dan.
Hey, Jason. I want to talk about Lucha Underground and how refreshing it is during the wrestling week. Like, I think the best analogy was given by Brian Alvarez of Figure Four.
Mm-hmm.
He says Lucha Underground is like a novella. It's kind of like treated like a sport because you never get any replays. So when you go from those soap opera cutscenes to matches, it's seamless. Unlike when you get in TNA, you get those backstage segments with those shaky cam. It's so jarring. But he says that because it's so streamlined, that don't take itself too serious. That's why it makes it such a fun product. But my question for you guys is, since y'all seen it, who has stood out the most, like, other than Dario and Konang, which of course they steal the show every time.
Yeah, they do.
You're absolutely right. Yeah,
they have to just sit there and have a drink. Even just sitting there having a drink, they're stealing the scene for sure.
For sure, but who else stood out? Phoenix, Puma. I think Phoenix outclassed Puma, but Johnny Mundo this week jumping off with this.
That was a great feature they did on him this week.
They
Just
did.
a bit of a background and not even necessarily hitting you over the head that this was an ex-WWE guy, but still kind of hinting at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Prince Puma has really been, that is their calling card, is this performer that he's the kind of style that if you're flipping through and just to sell someone on this show, it's incredible. I think that he's a huge asset to that promotion.
I mentioned last week the finish that was put out, and I can't remember the performer's name that did it. I'm just blanking on it. I'll get there. Okay, let's do another question here while John is taking a phone call, and that is going to be this. I want to mention this question because we were doing the intro of the show, and I read this question by accident. And Lee Russell had the three of us laughing out loud.
Yes.
As the intro was playing, we had to recoup and contain ourselves. Lee Russell just posted up, "Do you believe the WWE will have Colt Cabana killed?" Which I just thought was the greatest question we've ever had on the message board. So
that would
thank
upset
you, Lee.
Punk.
Yeah, I guess it would. Let's go back to the phones.
Okay, let's go to line 6. John's been waiting a long time in Long Island.
Hi there, John.
First, I just would like to say that CM Punk had every right to leave when he did. The way that WWE handled his staff inspection was inexcusable. Now, I just would like to say, commenting on an earlier caller, CM Punk is not the new Bruno. He is the new Macho Man. Because Vince McMahon, he actually still likes CM Punk. He cried when CM Punk left. I think Vince felt really bad. But Triple H wants to kill him. And when Triple H takes over the WWE...
No one is going to die. No one's going to die from this interview.
No one's going to die.
Triple H will never let CM Punk come back to WWE.
All right.
I don't know. Never say never.
That's right. I think it was Drago.
Drago?
Drago's finish last week. That I was talking about that pinning combination.
Right.
I was watching. I actually texted John and was like, "Oh man, you got to check this out. Make sure you see it this week." I thought that was right, but he lost this week.
Yes,
he's getting 50-50 booking.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he is. I still. I mean, there are guys like Puma, and I think Morris and Johnny Mundo's been doing great too. But really, it's the look and the presentation that still is the main attraction, I think, rather than any individual performer.
I don't like the fact that Masahiro Sagrada is wrestling regular sized guys.
Yeah, well, Havoc's not that big of a guy, but I mean, yeah, it's weird. I find it strange too. It's kind of like why don't they bring in some other minis for him to work with?
Mini matches.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yep.
It's also like, and then the women are thrown in with the guys too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Exactly. The minis with the larger guys and the women with it's weird.
One more phone call.
Line 2, Mike is in Richmond Hill.
Hi there, Mike.
Hey guys, I just wanted to ask 2 quick questions I wanted to ask. One, when CM Punk was suspended for 2 months, was he paid or not paid like the same way as the wellness violations?
Well, is that when he wasn't getting his royalty checks and that stuff? He had that whole. He talks about that in the interview where he had that whole hassle trying to get royalty checks out of them during that time. He didn't get anything, I don't think.
I'm guessing he was not being paid.
Yeah.
All right, also, part 2 of the podcast is supposed to be out this week. Do you think WWE is going to try to interfere and block it from happening?
How can they do that? They can't do anything like that. They can't interfere stop him from
That was one of the big clauses they wanted. They couldn't get.
Yep. They could have Colt Cabana killed.
I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to go quite that. And this one apparently is Punk's just going to take your questions for this next one. So, and then most people say, I think that's it. He's going to be done. He's not going to want to talk about wrestling anymore.
I think you could be right. I kind of get that general feeling as well that he might just let it go and just part ways with it, and move on to doing Marvel and
the
TV
comic
shows.
book stuff. Now, I'm sure you're going to see him in TV projects of some kind, either acting or hosting.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right, let's do quickly, or what do you want to do? You want one more?
Let's go to Will in New Jersey. Last call.
Quickly, Will.
Hey, how you doing? I just wanted to say, I believe he had every right to walk out. My questions were, do you think that, like on the next investor call, this is going to be brought up regarding...
Ooh, interesting. Sorry, I got to cut you off. On the next investor call, will it be brought up? Could be brought up in a Q&A.
So if there's a smart enough investor that's following this kind of stuff, I'm sure that they won't encourage it in any way.
I'd be surprised if it came up, but... It's possible.
You never know. Exactly. You never know.
I was going out at the wrong time. I went out a minute early. All right, let's do this. Who does Rollins cash his Money in the Bank in on? Will Cena face Brock for the title again? I think Cena and Brock will clash again.
Oh, yeah, that's
going to happen.
Made apparent for quite a while now.
Yeah.
That's your match for the Rumble.
And then Rollins probably wait for Reigns.
The fall. Sorry, not the fall, in the spring after WrestleMania.
After WrestleMania. I could see that going there. All right, that's our Q&A segment for this week, guys. We'll do more of it next week. We just did have calls right to the end of the show. Obviously, jam-packed next week on the program. Of course, we're going to be talking Ring of Honor. And then, the fallout of what goes on with this week.
Yes,
we got
we got two more podcasts this week to chat about. That's it. Live audio recapping of podcasts.
It seems to be what everyone's focused on. So if you're focused on it, we'll chat about it and give you guys a chance to feedback on the phones as well, because we're live every Sunday night at midnight. Keep that in mind. Midnight Eastern, Sunday nights is when we do this live. So if you're listening any other time, then you don't get the chance to call in. Back here next week, same time, same place. Don't you dare miss it.
Brother!
I fought the law.